There is a moment that happens to almost everyone, usually late at night, when the noise of the day has finally gone quiet. You lie there replaying a conversation from hours earlier. Someone took credit for your work. Someone talked over you in a meeting. Someone smiled at you while quietly working against you behind your back. And you did what you always do. You said nothing. You smiled back. You kept the peace. You told yourself that being the bigger person means staying silent, staying humble, staying nice. But somewhere in that silence, a question starts to form. A dangerous, uncomfortable, and strangely liberating question. What if being nice is the very reason people keep walking over you? What if kindness, when it is not backed by strength, is not a virtue at all, but an invitation? 500 years ago, a quiet political advisor in Florence, Italy, watched powerful men rise and fall, watched kind rulers get betrayed and destroyed, watched ruthless calculators seize everything, while good-hearted fools lost everything they had. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli, and the book he wrote afterward became one of the most feared, misunderstood, and secretly studied texts in human history. People call it evil, people call it manipulative, people call it the manual of tyrants. But if you strip away the fear and the reputation, what you find underneath is something far more unsettling than evil. You find truth. Uncomfortable, cold, undeniable truth about how human beings actually behave, not how we wish they behaved. Machiavelli was not teaching cruelty for its own sake. He was teaching survival in a world where nice people finish last, where trust is currency that gets stolen, and where the softest hearts often carry the deepest scars. In the next few minutes, we are going to break down 7 psychological weapons hidden inside Machiavelli's writing. Not tricks to destroy other people, tricks to stop other people from destroying you, tricks that will change the way you see every relationship, every workplace, every friendship, and every quiet betrayal you have ever experienced. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the people who seem the most powerful in your life are not always the smartest or the kindest. They are simply the ones who understood these 7 rules before you did. So if you have ever felt used, ever felt invisible in a room full of people who claim to respect you, ever felt like your kindness was mistaken for weakness, stay with us. Because what you are about to learn will not make you cruel. It will make you unshakable. Let's begin. Welcome back to The Hidden Mind, the channel where we dig beneath the surface of human behavior and expose the psychological forces that quietly control your life. If this is your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button right now, because every single week we take dense, complicated ideas from psychology, philosophy, and human history, and we translate them into simple, usable tools you can apply to your real life, starting today. Before we go further, I want to ask you for something small, but incredibly important to us. If this video resonates with you even a little, please take a moment to like it. That single click tells the algorithm that this content matters, and it helps this message reach someone else out there who desperately needs to hear it tonight. It costs you nothing, but it means everything to this channel's growth. I also want to invite you to drop a comment below. Tell us which of these 7 psychological tricks hit closest to home. Tell us about a time someone used your kindness against you. This channel is built by a community of people who are done being naive and ready to be wise, and your comment might be exactly what another viewer needs to read today. We read every single one. And if you know someone in your life who always gives too much, who always apologizes first, who always gets stepped on in relationships and workplaces because they refuse to play the game, share this video with them. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is hand them the truth they have been avoiding. Sharing this video could be the wake-up call that changes how they move through the world. Finally, if you find real value in what we do here at The Hidden Mind, and you want to help us keep producing deep, research-driven content like this, consider supporting the channel with a super thanks. It is a small gesture that makes an enormous difference, allowing us to keep this channel independent, add light, and focused purely on giving you the truth without distraction. Every bit of support tells us to keep going, and we see it, and we are deeply grateful for it. Now, Let's talk about the man behind these ideas, because understanding who Machiavelli was changes everything about how you will receive what comes next. Who was Machiavelli, and why should you care? Niccolò Machiavelli was not a tyrant. He was not a warlord. He was a diplomat, a civil servant, a man who spent years inside the halls of power in Renaissance Florence, watching how real leaders actually operated, not how philosophers imagined they should operate. He negotiated with kings, watched cardinals plot against each other, and studied the rise and fall of some of the most ruthless men in Italian history. Then, after he lost his political position and was even imprisoned and tortured on false charges, he sat alone in exile and wrote down everything he had learned about power, trust, appearances, and human nature. The result was a short book called The Prince. It was never meant to be a guide for evil. It was meant to be a mirror, a brutally honest reflection of how people actually behave when reputation, self-interest, fear, and ambition are on the line, instead of how we pretend they behave in polite conversation. Machiavelli understood something that most people spend their entire lives refusing to accept. Goodness without strength is not virtue, it is vulnerability. And in a world full of people who will happily exploit vulnerability, refusing to protect yourself is not kindness. It is self-sabotage disguised as morality. This is not a call to become cruel, cold, or manipulative toward people who do not deserve it. This is a call to stop being naive toward people who absolutely will exploit you if you let them. There is a profound difference between those two things, and by the time we finish this video, you will understand exactly where that line sits. Let's begin with the first psychological trick, and it is the one that most people misunderstand the most. Trick 1. It is safer to be respected than to be loved. Machiavelli wrote one of the most quoted, most misunderstood lines in the history of political philosophy. He said that it is much safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot have both. For centuries, people have twisted this into a justification for cruelty, for intimidation, for treating people badly. But that is a shallow reading of something far deeper. What Machiavelli was really describing was the fragile, unreliable nature of love as a foundation for respect, and the far more stable foundation of boundaries backed by consequences. Think about love for a moment. Real love, the kind you give to a friend, a partner, a colleague, or even a stranger you are trying to be kind to. Love is generous by nature. It is given freely, and because it is given freely, it can also be withdrawn freely, ignored freely, or exploited freely by anyone who realizes there is no cost attached to hurting you. Machiavelli observed something painfully accurate about people under pressure. When things get difficult, when self-interest is on the line, people will abandon the person they claim to love the moment loyalty becomes inconvenient. Love, on its own, without any structure of respect or consequence behind it, dissolves the instant it becomes costly to maintain. Now think about respect. Real respect is different. Respect is not chosen. It is not a feeling that people decide to have toward you out of the goodness of their heart. Respect is earned through demonstrated boundaries, consistent self-worth, and the clear understanding that there are consequences for mistreating you. People do not walk away from someone they respect the moment things get inconvenient, because respect carries weight. It carries a cost to violate. Machiavelli was not telling rulers to be hated. He was telling them never to rely purely on affection, because affection is the most unstable currency in human relationships. Translate this into your own life for a second. Think about the people who actually treat you well, consistently, reliably, over the long term. Are they the people who simply say they love you, or are they the people who know, deep down, that mistreating you carries real consequences? Think about the friend who cancels on you constantly because they know you will always forgive them without question. Think about the partner who never fully commits because they sense there is no real boundary that will ever be enforced. Think about the coworker who takes credit for your ideas because they have learned, through repeated experience, that you will never push back. This is the trap that kind, agreeable people fall into again and again. They believe that if they are simply loving enough, patient enough, understanding enough, people will naturally respect them in return. But respect does not work that way. Respect is built through action, not affection. It is built the moment you demonstrate, clearly and calmly, that there is a limit to what you will tolerate, and that crossing that limit has a real cost. This does not mean becoming cold, harsh, or intimidating toward people who genuinely care about you. It means understanding that unconditional kindness without boundaries is not sustainable, and it is not even truly kind, because it teaches the people around you that your feelings, your time, and your effort have no real value. When you enforce a boundary calmly and consistently, you are not being unkind. You are teaching people exactly how to treat you, and you are teaching yourself that your own worth does not depend on being liked by everyone in every moment. Here is the deeper psychological truth hidden inside this idea. People do not actually resent those who hold firm boundaries. They resent people who hold firm boundaries inconsistently or who explode with anger after months of silent resentment. The goal is not fear, in the sense of intimidation. The goal is a quiet, calm, unmistakable signal that you respect yourself enough to protect your own peace, your own time, and your own dignity. That signal, more than any amount of pleading or people-pleasing, is what earns genuine, lasting respect from the people around you. Ask yourself honestly, right now, where in your life you have been trading your own boundaries for the temporary comfort of being liked. Where have you stayed silent because you were afraid that speaking up would make someone stop loving you? Machiavelli's uncomfortable wisdom here is simple. If someone's affection for you disappears the moment you protect yourself, that affection was never stable to begin with. And chasing stability through submission is a losing game every single time. Trick 2. Perception is the battlefield, not reality. Here is a truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding, because it feels uncomfortable, even dishonest. The world does not respond to who you actually are. The world responds to who it perceives you to be. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity, centuries before modern psychology gave it a name. He wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be, while only a few actually experience what you really are, and those few rarely dare to contradict the opinion of the majority. This is not a call to become fake or deceptive toward the people who matter to you. It is a recognition of a psychological reality that governs how strangers, colleagues, employers, and even casual acquaintances treat you before they ever get the chance to know your true character. First impressions, consistent presentation, and the story you allow to be told about you shape almost every opportunity, every relationship, and every judgment people make, often before a single meaningful conversation has taken place. Think about how unfair, and yet how universally true this is. Two people can have identical skills, identical intentions, and identical hearts, and yet one of them will be trusted, promoted, and respected, while the other is overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed, simply because one of them understood how to manage perception and the other believed that genuine character alone would eventually speak for itself. In an ideal world, competence and kindness would always be recognized eventually. In the real world, perception moves faster than truth, and by the time truth catches up, opportunities have already been won or lost. Machiavelli's insight was not that appearances matter more than substance in some abstract philosophical sense. It was that most people you interact with will never take the time or have the access to verify your substance directly. They will judge you instead by the signals you send, how you carry yourself, how you speak about your own worth, how consistently you show up, how you handle pressure in front of others, whether you project calm competence or visible anxiety. These signals become, for most observers, the entire basis of their opinion of you, because verifying deeper truth takes time that most people are simply not willing to invest. This explains one of the most frustrating patterns in professional and social life. The person who talks confidently about their accomplishments, even modest ones, often advances faster than the deeply skilled person who stays quiet and waits to be noticed. It is not fair. It is not a reflection of true merit, but it is how perception-driven systems function, and pretending otherwise leaves you at a permanent disadvantage against people who have simply learned to play the game more consciously than you have. So what does this actually mean for your daily life? It means paying attention to the story other people are constructing about you and taking an active role in shaping it instead of leaving it entirely to chance or to the loudest voice in the room. It means understanding that how you show up matters just as much as what you actually deliver, not because substance does not matter, but because substance without visible presentation often goes completely unnoticed. It also means being deeply cautious about the perception others are curating around you. Machiavelli warned rulers to watch closely for those who present themselves as loyal allies while quietly building influence against them behind closed doors. The same danger exists in ordinary life. The coworker who is warm and complimentary to your face while quietly undermining you in private conversations is playing exactly this game, using perception as a weapon while you remain focused on reality alone. The lesson here is not to become a manipulator, constructing false versions of yourself to deceive people who trust you. The lesson is to stop being naive about the fact that perception shapes outcomes, whether you participate consciously or not. If you refuse to manage how you are perceived, you are not being more authentic. You are simply handing that power over to other people, some of whom will use it far less kindly than you would have used it yourself. Reclaim that power. Present yourself with intention. Let your actual character remain the foundation, but stop assuming that foundation alone will ever be enough. Trick 3. Keep your circle small, your information smaller. One of Machiavelli's most quietly devastating observations concerns the danger of trusting too many people with too much of yourself. He observed, through direct experience with courts full of spies, informants, and shifting allegiances, that the moment your private thoughts, plans, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities become common knowledge, you have handed every person who knows them a potential weapon to use against you, whether or not they ever intend to use it. This idea makes many people deeply uncomfortable because we are taught from childhood that openness, transparency, and vulnerability are unconditionally good things. And in the right relationships, with the right people, that is absolutely true. Deep, trusting bonds are one of the most valuable things a human being can experience. But Machiavelli's warning was never aimed at those precious few relationships. It was aimed at the dangerous habit of extending that same level of openness to everyone, indiscriminately, simply because it feels good in the moment to be known and understood. Here is the uncomfortable psychological truth. Not everyone in your life has earned access to your full story. Not everyone who smiles warmly at you, asks caring questions, and appears genuinely interested in your struggles is operating with your best interests at heart. Some people collect information about you not to understand you, but to use it later, in moments of conflict, competition, or simple social gossip, when it becomes convenient for them to do so. This is not paranoia. It is pattern recognition, and history, both political and personal, is full of examples of confidences betrayed at exactly the wrong moment. Think about how often personal information shared in a moment of vulnerability has later been used as ammunition. A private struggle mentioned to a coworker resurfaces during a performance review. A family conflict shared with a friend becomes gossip at a social gathering. A financial hardship confided to an acquaintance becomes a subtle tool for manipulation or judgment later on. None of this requires other people to be villains in some dramatic, cartoonish sense. Most people are not consciously malicious. But information, once shared, is no longer entirely within your control, and Machiavelli understood that controlling what leaves your inner circle is one of the most powerful forms of self-protection available to anyone. This does not mean living in isolation, trusting no one, and treating every relationship as a potential threat. That path leads only to loneliness and suspicion, and it is not what Machiavelli was describing. What it means is developing discernment. Learning to distinguish between the small circle of people who have consistently proven, through years of demonstrated loyalty, that they deserve your full openness, and the much larger circle of acquaintances, colleagues, and casual friends who deserve warmth, kindness, and connection, but not necessarily unrestricted access to your deepest vulnerabilities, your private plans, or your unfiltered opinions about the people around you. There is a particular danger hidden inside this idea that deserves special attention. It is the danger of oversharing out of a desire to be liked, to seem relatable, or to fill an uncomfortable silence in conversation. Many people share far more than they should, not because they trust the listener deeply, but simply because vulnerability creates an immediate feeling of closeness, and that feeling is addictive in the moment, even when it is not backed by real, tested trust. Machiavelli would call this a strategic error, a trade of long-term safety for short-term emotional comfort. Practically speaking, this trick asks you to slow down. Before sharing something deeply personal, before revealing a plan you are still developing, before confiding a weakness to someone you have known for only a short time, ask yourself honestly whether this specific person has earned that access through demonstrated, consistent loyalty over time, rather than through the simple fact that the conversation felt warm and comfortable in the moment. This single habit, practiced consistently, will protect you from an enormous amount of unnecessary pain, betrayal, and manipulation over the course of your life. Trick 4. Never let them see your full hand. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from constantly explaining yourself, constantly justifying your decisions, constantly revealing your full reasoning to people who did not even ask for it out of genuine care, but out of a desire to find leverage against you. Machiavelli understood, with striking clarity, that the person who reveals every plan, every intention, and every emotional reaction in real time hands enormous power to anyone watching, because predictability is one of the easiest things in the world to exploit. This principle is often misunderstood as a call to become secretive, dishonest, or emotionally closed off toward everyone in your life. That is not the point. The point is far more subtle and far more useful. It is about understanding the difference between honesty and complete transparency, and recognizing that these are not the same thing. You can be a deeply honest person, someone who never lies, never deceives, never manipulates, while still choosing carefully when, how, and to whom you reveal your full reasoning, your next moves, and your emotional reactions. Consider how often people undermine their own position simply by reacting too quickly, too visibly, and too predictably. Someone insults you, and you immediately show visible anger, giving them exactly the reaction they were hoping to provoke, and confirming that this tactic works on you. Someone asks about your plans, and you immediately share every detail, including uncertainties and doubts, handing them information they can later use to second-guess you, undermine you, or beat you to an opportunity. Someone challenges you, and you immediately justify yourself at length, revealing insecurities you never needed to reveal in the first place. Machiavelli's advice here connects to something modern psychology now understands very well. Emotional reactivity is a form of information leakage. Every time you respond immediately and visibly to provocation, praise, criticism, or manipulation, you are teaching the people around you exactly which buttons produce exactly which results. Manipulative people are, in essence, running small experiments on you constantly, testing which words, which tones, and which situations produce a predictable reaction, and then using that knowledge deliberately to control your behavior. The antidote is not coldness, it is composure. It is the practice of creating a small but meaningful gap between what happens to you and how you respond to it. This gap is where your power lives. When someone provokes you and you take a breath before responding, rather than reacting instantly, you deny them the immediate confirmation they were seeking, and you buy yourself time to choose a response that actually serves your long-term interests, rather than simply venting an emotion in the moment. This principle extends beyond emotional reactions into practical decision-making as well. Machiavelli observed that rulers who announced their intentions too early gave their rivals ample time to prepare countermeasures, form opposing alliances, or simply steal the advantage for themselves. The same dynamic plays out constantly in ordinary life. The colleague who announces they are job hunting before securing a new position often finds themselves quietly sidelined. The person who reveals a business idea to everyone before it is developed often finds a faster-moving competitor has claimed it first. The individual who shares every relationship doubt with mutual friends before working through it privately often finds that gossip has damaged the relationship before it even had a chance to heal. None of this requires deception. It requires discretion, timing, and the wisdom to understand that not every thought needs to be spoken the moment it forms, and not every plan needs to be announced before it is ready to be executed. Practicing this trick means developing the discipline to sit with your own thoughts, plans, and emotional reactions for a moment longer than feels natural, asking yourself who genuinely needs to know this information right now, and who is simply asking out of curiosity, competition, or a desire to gain leverage over you. This single pause, practiced consistently, will protect more of your opportunities and more of your peace than almost any other habit you could develop. Trick 5. Fortune favors the bold, not the cautious. Machiavelli wrote something startling about fate itself. He compared fortune, the unpredictable force that governs half of everything that happens to us, to a violent river that floods without warning, destroying everything unprepared in its path. But he also observed something crucial. In calm weather, that same river can be managed, redirected, and prepared for by anyone willing to build the right structures in advance, rather than waiting passively to see what happens. This is one of the most psychologically important ideas in his entire body of work, and it directly challenges the passive, waiting mindset that keeps so many people stuck in lives smaller than the ones they actually want. Machiavelli believed that roughly half of what happens to us in life is genuinely beyond our control, shaped by circumstance, timing, and pure chance. But he insisted, with real conviction, that the other half remains entirely within our own hands, determined by preparation, boldness, and the willingness to act decisively when opportunity finally appears. Here is where this idea becomes deeply personal. Think about how many opportunities in your own life have quietly slipped away, not because you lacked the ability to seize them, but because you hesitated, waited for more certainty, waited for permission, waited for a feeling of complete readiness that, if we are honest, almost never actually arrives. Machiavelli observed something about cautious people that remains just as true today as it was 5 centuries ago. Excessive caution does not actually protect you from risk. It simply trades the risk of failure for the guaranteed loss of opportunity, and the second cost is usually far larger than the first, even though it feels much safer in the moment. He wrote, quite directly, that it is better to be bold than overly cautious, because fortune, in his vivid metaphor, is like a woman who yields more readily to those who approach her with confidence and force than to those who proceed coldly and hesitantly. Setting aside the outdated language of his era, the psychological insight underneath remains sharp and relevant. Confidence and decisive action tend to create opportunities that caution and hesitation simply cannot access, because the world consistently rewards visible initiative far more reliably than it rewards quiet, invisible readiness. This does not mean acting recklessly, without thought, without preparation, without any regard for consequences. Machiavelli was equally clear that boldness without preparation is simply foolishness dressed up as courage. The real lesson combines both halves of the equation. Prepare relentlessly for the things within your control. Build your skills, build your knowledge, build your resources, build the version of yourself capable of handling whatever opportunity arrives, and then, when that opportunity finally appears, act decisively instead of retreating into endless analysis, endless second-guessing, and endless waiting for a certainty that will never actually come. Think about the specific moments in your life where hesitation has cost you something valuable. A job opportunity you did not apply for because you assumed you were not quite ready. A conversation you did not start because you were afraid of an uncomfortable reaction. A relationship you did not pursue because you waited for the other person to make the first move, and the moment simply passed by. A business idea you did not act on because you wanted just a little more certainty, and by the time you felt ready, someone else had already claimed the space. Each of these moments represents fortune's river flowing calmly for a brief window of time, offering a chance to build something meaningful before conditions shifted and the opportunity disappeared entirely. The psychological trap that keeps people trapped in excessive caution is the illusion that waiting is a neutral choice, that it costs nothing to simply delay a decision until you feel completely certain. But waiting is never neutral. It is an active choice with real consequences, because time continues to move, circumstances continue to shift, and other people, less hesitant than you, continue to act in the space you were too afraid to enter. Machiavelli's challenge to every person absorbing this idea is simple and direct. Stop mistaking hesitation for wisdom. Sometimes wisdom looks exactly like decisive, prepared, deliberate boldness, taken at precisely the moment when opportunity briefly opens its door. Trick 6. Handle pain quickly, deliver kindness slowly. This particular principle from Machiavelli is often the most misunderstood, and also, once properly explained, one of the most useful for anyone trying to establish healthy boundaries in their personal and professional life. He observed that when difficult, painful, or necessary actions must be taken, whether that means enforcing a consequence, delivering hard truth, or ending something that is no longer serving you, it should be done quickly, decisively, and all at once, rather than dragged out slowly over an extended period of time. The reasoning behind this is rooted in a sharp understanding of human psychology that modern research continues to confirm. Pain that is delivered quickly and completely allows people to process it, adjust to it, and move forward from it. Pain that is delivered slowly, in small doses, stretched out over weeks or months, creates a state of prolonged anxiety, resentment, and psychological damage that often ends up far worse than the original difficult action would have caused if it had simply been handled directly and immediately. Think about how this plays out in real relationships. Consider the manager who knows an employee's role needs to change or needs to end, but avoids the difficult conversation for months, instead dropping small hints, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty, letting the employee slowly sense that something is wrong without ever clearly explaining what or why. That slow, dragged-out uncertainty is far crueler than a single, honest, direct conversation would have been, even though it feels, to the person avoiding the conversation, like the kinder, gentler path. It is not kinder, it is simply more comfortable for the person avoiding it, at the cost of prolonged suffering for the person left in uncertainty. Consider the relationship that both people privately know is over, but neither person is willing to end clearly and directly, instead allowing it to slowly deteriorate through withdrawal, small cruelties, and unspoken resentment, rather than facing the difficult but necessary conversation head-on. This slow unraveling causes far more damage over far more time than a direct, honest, immediate conversation would have caused, delivered with clarity and respect, even if it is painful in that single moment. Machiavelli's insight applies just as powerfully to the second half of this principle, which people tend to forget entirely. He said that favors, rewards, and kindness should be delivered slowly, gradually, and consistently over time, rather than all at once. This is because kindness given all at once, in a single overwhelming gesture, is quickly absorbed, quickly forgotten, and quickly taken for granted, while kindness delivered steadily and consistently over time builds lasting goodwill, trust, and loyalty that compounds far beyond what any single grand gesture could ever achieve. Think about how this applies to building genuine trust and respect with the people around you. A single, expensive gift does far less to build lasting loyalty than consistent, smaller acts of care and support, delivered reliably over months and years. A single grand apology after a serious mistake does far less to rebuild trust than months of consistent, reliable, trustworthy behavior demonstrated gradually over time. The psychological principle underneath this is simple. Humans adapt quickly to single events, no matter how large, but they respond deeply to patterns, no matter how small each individual instance might seem. Applying this trick to your own life means developing the courage to handle necessary difficult conversations quickly and directly, rather than allowing anxiety and avoidance to stretch them out into a slow, painful process that damages everyone involved. It also means resisting the urge to try to win someone's trust or loyalty through a single grand gesture, and instead committing to the much harder, much more valuable work of consistent, reliable kindness delivered steadily over the long term. Quick and decisive when difficulty demands it, slow and steady when building genuine trust. This is the balance Machiavelli was describing, and it remains one of the most practical psychological tools available to anyone navigating relationships, leadership, or personal boundaries today. Trick 7. Guard your mind against flatterers. The final psychological trick Machiavelli offers might be the most protective of all. because it addresses a danger that almost never announces itself clearly. He warned, with real urgency, about the danger of flatterers, people who tell you exactly what you want to hear, who agree with your decisions regardless of their merit, who praise you excessively, and who slowly, quietly, become the only voices you actually listen to, because their constant approval feels so much better than the discomfort of honest, critical feedback. Machiavelli understood something profound about human psychology that remains just as true today as it was in Renaissance courts full of eager courtiers competing for royal favor. Flattery is dangerous precisely because it feels good, and things that feel good are far easier to trust than things that feel uncomfortable, even when the uncomfortable thing is actually far more valuable and far more true. A person surrounded by flatterers gradually loses access to accurate information about themselves, their decisions, and their blind spots, because everyone around them has learned that honesty carries a social cost, while flattery carries only reward. Think about how this pattern shows up in ordinary life, far beyond royal courts and political power. The friend group, where no one is willing to tell you honestly that a relationship you are in is unhealthy, because they are afraid of upsetting you or being excluded from the group. The workplace, where employees learn quickly that disagreeing with leadership, even when leadership is clearly wrong, carries real career consequences. So honest feedback slowly disappears entirely, replaced by carefully managed agreement. The social media environment, where algorithms and comment sections reward whatever confirms your existing beliefs, while genuine, challenging perspectives are simply filtered out or ignored, creating an artificial echo chamber that feels like validation, but is actually a slow erosion of your ability to see yourself clearly. Machiavelli's solution to this danger was surprisingly specific and remains remarkably practical even today. He advised surrounding yourself with a small number of trusted advisors, people specifically given permission and encouragement to speak honestly, even when that honesty is uncomfortable, while simultaneously refusing to allow that honesty to become a free-for-all where everyone feels entitled to offer unsolicited criticism at all times. The key insight is deliberate curation. You must actively choose who has permission to challenge you honestly, and you must actively protect that small circle from the much larger crowd of people who would rather flatter you than genuinely help you grow. This requires a specific kind of psychological strength that many people never develop, because it means deliberately seeking out discomfort rather than avoiding it. It means asking the people closest to you, directly and sincerely, to tell you the truth even when it is difficult to hear, and then, crucially, actually rewarding that honesty when it arrives, rather than becoming defensive, hurt, or distant toward the person brave enough to offer it. Most people say they want honest feedback, but their actual behavior, their subtle defensiveness, their withdrawal, their irritation, teaches the people around them that honesty is not actually welcome, and so, gradually, the honest voices grow quiet, and only the flatterers remain. There is a deeper layer to this trick that connects directly back to your relationship with yourself. Flattery does not only come from other people, it comes from your own mind as well, in the form of comfortable self-justifications that protect your ego from uncomfortable truths about your own behavior, your own mistakes, and your own blind spots. Developing the discipline to challenge your own comfortable narratives, to ask yourself honestly whether you are avoiding a difficult truth simply because it is easier to believe a flattering version of events, is perhaps the most advanced application of this entire principle. Practically speaking, this trick asks you to do two things simultaneously. First, identify the flatterers in your life, the people who never challenge you, who always agree, who make you feel good in the short term, while quietly costing you accurate self-awareness in the long term, and consciously reduce how much weight you give their opinions in genuinely important decisions. Second, identify and actively cultivate relationships with people who care about you enough to tell you uncomfortable truths, and make a deliberate effort to receive that honesty with gratitude rather than defensiveness, because those voices, few as they may be, are often the single most valuable psychological resource you will ever have access to. Why these ideas feel uncomfortable, and why that discomfort matters. If some part of you has felt resistance while listening to these 7 principles, a quiet voice insisting that this all sounds too calculated, too strategic, too far removed from the warm, open-hearted way you were raised to treat people, that resistance is worth examining closely instead of dismissing. Most of us were taught, often with good intentions, that being good means being endlessly patient, endlessly forgiving, endlessly available, and endlessly trusting. We were taught that questioning this approach, or building boundaries around it, somehow makes us less virtuous, less loving, less worthy of being called a good person. But consider where that teaching actually leads when it is applied without any discernment at all. It leads to good people burning out while taking care of everyone except themselves. It leads to talented people staying invisible because they were taught that promoting their own value is somehow arrogant or unseemly. It leads to trusting people being betrayed repeatedly by the same patterns because they were never taught to distinguish between relationships that have earned trust and relationships that have simply demanded it. The discomfort you may feel while absorbing these ideas is not a sign that they are wrong. It is a sign that they are challenging a belief system that has, quite possibly, been costing you far more than you have ever consciously realized. There is an important distinction worth repeating clearly, because it is so easy to lose in a conversation like this one. Machiavelli's 7 principles are not permission to become dishonest, cruel, or exploitative toward people who have earned your trust and treated you with genuine care. They are protection against people who have not earned that trust, and who rely on your unconditional goodwill to take advantage of you without consequence. Applying these principles correctly actually makes you a better, safer, more reliable person to the people who genuinely deserve your loyalty, because your generosity toward them becomes sustainable, protected, and free from the resentment that builds when kindness is extended without limits to people who do not reciprocate it. Think of it this way: a garden without a fence is not more generous than a garden with one. It is simply more vulnerable to being trampled, and eventually, it stops producing anything worth sharing at all, because nothing inside it is ever given the chance to fully grow. A fence does not make a garden less beautiful or less giving. It makes the garden sustainable, protected long enough to actually flourish, and able to offer something meaningful to the people who are invited in with care. Your boundaries function the same way. They are not the opposite of generosity. They are what makes real, lasting generosity possible in the first place. Real-world reflections on these principles. Consider, for a moment, 3 different kinds of people you have likely encountered somewhere in your own life, and notice how these 7 principles explain the very different outcomes each of them experienced. The first is the person who gave endlessly, who never set a single boundary, who agreed to every request, absorbed every insult quietly, and trusted every person who smiled at them warmly. Over time, this person often becomes exhausted, resentful, and quietly bitter, wondering why their goodness was never rewarded the way they believed it would be. The world did not punish their kindness directly. It simply failed to protect it, because nothing within their own behavior signaled that their kindness carried any limit or any cost to exploit. The second is the person who swung entirely in the opposite direction, who became guarded, suspicious, cold, and unwilling to extend trust or warmth to anyone at all. This person often avoids the specific pain of betrayal, but pays for it with a different kind of loss. A life increasingly isolated, relationships that never deepen past a surface level, and a nagging sense that something essential about genuine human connection has been sacrificed in the name of protection. Machiavelli never advocated for this path either. Total closure is simply naivety wearing a different mask, trading one kind of vulnerability for another. The third is the person who learned, whether through hard experience or deliberate study, to hold both things at once: warm, generous, and genuinely caring toward the people who have earned that trust, while remaining calm, composed, discerning, and protected around everyone else. This is the person who seems, almost mysteriously, to attract loyalty, respect, and opportunity, not because they are luckier than everyone else, but because they have stopped making themselves an easy target while continuing to offer real, meaningful connection to those who deserve it. This third path is the one Machiavelli was quietly pointing toward across all 7 of these principles, and it is the path this channel exists to help you walk with clarity and confidence. Bringing the 7 tricks together. Now that we have walked through all 7 of these psychological principles, it is worth stepping back and understanding how they connect into a single, coherent way of moving through the world. Machiavelli was not describing 7 isolated tricks to memorize and deploy separately. He was describing a complete shift in how a person relates to power, trust, vulnerability, and self-protection, a shift away from naive, unguarded openness and toward deliberate, self-aware strength. The first trick teaches you that respect built on boundaries is far more durable than affection built on unconditional submission. The second teaches you that perception shapes opportunity, and that ignoring how you are perceived leaves that power in the hands of others. The third teaches you to be deliberate about who earns access to your full story, protecting your vulnerabilities from those who have not proven themselves worthy of them. The fourth teaches you the power of composure, of denying predictable reactions to those who would use them against you. The fifth teaches you that boldness, paired with preparation, unlocks opportunities that caution alone will always miss. The sixth teaches you the wisdom of timing, delivering necessary pain quickly, and genuine kindness steadily. And the seventh teaches you to guard fiercely against the comfortable lies of flattery, both from others and from yourself. Together, these 7 principles do not describe a cold, manipulative, or cruel way of living. They describe a mature, self-respecting way of engaging with a world that does not always reward pure kindness, pure honesty, or pure patience the way we might wish it did. They describe the difference between being genuinely good and being naively good, a distinction that Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago and that remains just as urgently relevant today, in your workplace, in your relationships, and in the quiet decisions you make every single day about how much of yourself to give away and how much to protect. The people in your life who seem to move through the world with quiet, unshakable confidence, who are respected rather than merely liked, who seem to attract opportunity rather than waiting passively for it, who seem impossible to manipulate or exploit, are very often people who have internalized some version of these 7 principles, whether they ever read a single page of Machiavelli or not. This is not a coincidence. It is a pattern, repeated across centuries, across cultures, and across every single environment where power, trust, and human psychology intersect. You do not need to become someone you are not to apply these ideas. You do not need to abandon your kindness, your empathy, or your genuine care for the people around you. What you need to abandon is the naive belief that kindness alone, unaccompanied by boundaries, discernment, composure, boldness, timing, and honest self-awareness, is enough to protect you in a world that does not always operate by the rules you wish it did. Strength and kindness are not opposites, they are partners, and the moment you allow strength to support your kindness, instead of letting kindness stand alone and unprotected, everything about how people treat you begins to change. If these 7 psychological principles shifted something in the way you think about your own life, about the boundaries you have been avoiding, the people you have been trusting too quickly, or the opportunities you have been letting slip by out of fear, then this video has done exactly what it was meant to do. But we need your help to make sure it reaches the next person who needs to hear it just as much as you did. First, please like this video right now. It genuinely takes only a second, and it is the single most powerful signal you can send to help this content reach more people who are stuck in the exact same patterns you may have recognized in yourself today. Every like matters more than you might think. Second, take a moment to leave a comment below. Tell us which of these 7 tricks hit you the hardest. Tell us about a moment in your own life where you gave away too much trust, too much patience, or too much of yourself to someone who did not deserve it. This community grows stronger every time someone is honest enough to share their story, and your words might be exactly what helps another viewer feel less alone tonight. Third, if you know someone in your life, a friend, a sibling, a coworker, who consistently gives too much and receives too little in return, please share this video with them directly. Sometimes we cannot see our own patterns clearly until someone we trust hands us the mirror. This video could be that mirror for someone you care about. Fourth, if you have not already, please subscribe to The Hidden Mind. Every week, we bring you deep, carefully researched breakdowns of the psychological forces that quietly shape human behavior, drawn from history, philosophy, and modern research, all translated into practical wisdom you can actually use in your everyday life. There is far more waiting for you here, and I promise you do not want to miss what is coming next. And finally, if this channel has genuinely provided value to you, if these ideas have changed even a small part of how you see yourself or the people around you, please consider supporting us with a super thanks. This channel exists because of viewers like you, and every bit of support helps us continue creating the kind of deep, honest content that respects your intelligence and your time without compromise. Remember what we talked about today. Being nice is not the same as being weak, and being smart is not the same as being cruel. The goal was never to become someone cold, someone manipulative, or someone people fear for the wrong reasons. The goal is to become someone who can no longer be exploited by those who mistake your kindness for an open door. Protect your peace, guard your boundaries, choose boldness over hesitation, reward honesty over flattery, and above all, never apologize for finally choosing to play smart instead of simply being nice. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. We will see you in the next one, right here on The Hidden Mind.